Hi, everyone. Today's lesson is on during reading strategies. I often refer to it as DRS, all capital letters. You'll see that sometimes written on Google Classroom or on the whiteboard in the classroom. I also have a space in my classroom for during reading strategies. It's over above the bookshelf with all my novels in it. So during reading strategies are strategies that you can use during reading. So while you're reading a book, you can use these strategies to help you understand what you're reading better. However, these strategies can be used when you're not only just reading a book, but when you're reading a short story, when you're reading even picture books, which we will use as examples. And also for informational texts such as articles that you read in science or social studies classes. So these strategies will help you in all content area courses with your reading. I'm sure that you have done some of these already on your own, and my goal is that I will use these to assess you on the different types of strategies, but only because it is that important for you to be able to use these independently. I'm hoping by the end of the year that some of these strategies you'll just do on your own without, having an assessment or Mrs. Crestia looking over your shoulder. So the first one is a fun one, especially if you're creative and you like to draw or you're even into movies. So the during reading strategy visualizing is when you make mental pictures of movies while you're reading text. And this can work for both literature and informational text. If you're reading an article on sea turtles, then you can still make mental pictures, images, or even a movie in your head of what you're reading. This really helps you to sequence the events of a story. It also brings to light what your prior knowledge is of a topic and helps you to make connections. So some of these are just cute little pictures. Basically, I make mental pictures that change as I read, like a movie playing in my brain. So all you movie critics out there, think about it. It doesn't just stay one picture the entire time. It moves and changes with setting and characters and plot. So this is actually the first during reading strategy that we're going to focus on after. So the next during reading strategy that you can use is looking up unfamiliar words. I have to admit, this is not a particular fun one. However, it is so important that you use this strategy to help you. So, for example, when you are reading a short story, and even I will do this when I'm reading aloud to you, or when we read the novel A Christmas Carol, there are going to be words that you have never been exposed to. And that's okay because we can use dictionary.com or a paper dictionary to look up unfamiliar words to try to understand what it means. The other way to understand the definition of an unfamiliar word is to use context clues. So words that come before it, looking at the structure of the sentence to determine whether it's a noun or a verb. Things like that you can try to use to make your understanding of that word greater. The one thing that we will practice, and it is challenging, is when you have a word, and of course English is one of the most difficult languages, when you have a word that has multiple meanings, you have to be able to know which meaning you need to use for the word, and that's using context clues. And we'll practice that all throughout the school year in different ways. Another one is making connections. I really enjoy this during reading strategy. I think some of the students I worked with also enjoy this. This is where you can make a variety of connections to the novel or even informational text that you're reading. The first one is kind of a more general one. It's making connections to the world. So maybe something happened in the real world. For example, say we were reading a historical novel that had the plague in it. Well, all of us have lived through COVID-19, and although it's not a plague, it's a pandemic, we can still make personal connections about what people might have felt like during the plague. Another connection that you can make is text to text. This is when you are reading a novel and it reminds you of another novel that you've read. And I don't mean in the same series. So Harry Potter has a variety of books. And of course, you can go back and make connections to earlier books. But I'm talking like if you read Percy Jackson, maybe you can make and then you read The Alchemist. Maybe you can make some connections between Percy Jackson and Josh and Sophie, who are characters in The Alchemist. And if you haven't read those novels, you really should. They're a lot of fun and very exciting and adventure-based. Text to text is something that we usually do verbally, where text to world, I might have you respond in a journal. And the final one is making connections to yourself. So perhaps there's a setting in a novel that you can relate to. Maybe you are able to go to the lake during the summer and the novel happens to have a setting at a lake. Characters, maybe a character reminds you of a specific family member or a friend. So these are making connections. So it really has to do with you and your prior knowledge. So that's why I think it's a lot of fun. Another during reading strategy, which I think it's fun to find out if you're right or wrong, but it does require a little bit more delving into the text, is making predictions. The problem with making predictions is that you're also supposed to confirm and adjust them. So for example, I might have us at the beginning of, say, the novel A Christmas Carol, have you make a prediction about what you think it's going to be about. Now, obviously, some of you have seen the movie Scrooge. However, the book is a little bit different. But anyway, I would ask you to make a prediction, and you would use the sentence starter, I think is going to happen in this novel. It could be character-based, it could be plot-based, it could be you think what the settings might change to. The key to making predictions in order for it to help you with your comprehension is being able to confirm or adjust it. Confirming it means that you predict something will happen and it actually happened that way, or mostly that way. Adjusting means that you predicted that Harry Potter would have to fight Voldemort at the end, and Harry Potter dies. Adjusting would be able to say, I got the first part correct. It was Harry Potter versus Voldemort. However, Harry Potter didn't die. And that's adjusting. It's being able to know what parts of your prediction are accurate and what parts needed to be changed. Again, it's kind of a challenge to see how many times you can be accurate with your predictions. And I also find it fun to make a prediction and then all of a sudden be way off. The next during reading strategy is asking questions while reading. And we'll do this later in the school year. I haven't decided if we're going to read the novel that I read this past year, but it's called Whirligig. You may really enjoy it. It has a lot of serious teenager issues within it. So asking questions while reading, there are two types of questions. There are thick questions and thin questions. Thin questions are what you're used to. It's who, what, where, when, how, why. So the 5 W's. And those answers are strictly in the text. So if you, again, going to say we're reading something about sea turtles, then you can go in the text and find out where sea turtles live. That is a thin question. Thick questions are primarily when you have to think deeper. Sometimes there's textual information to help you with your understanding and your answer, but you have to use prior knowledge, which is knowledge that you already know. So say the impact of pollution on sea turtles. That would be a thicker question. How is pollution affecting sea turtles? With regard, and I'm just going to stay with the Harry Potter theme. Say I asked, where did Harry Potter live when he wasn't at Hogwarts? That's a thin question because I can look directly in the text and find out where he lived. However, a thick question might be, does Harry Potter enjoy returning to where he lives when he's not at Hogwarts? A lot of us will immediately say, whoa, no way. He hated living there because he was in a closet, etc. However, it's not in the book. Never does it directly say Harry Potter hated living here. You have to use your understanding of how he felt when he was underneath in the little closet, and also the interactions between his aunt and his uncle. So it really, thick questions make us think, and we have to go beyond the story to find those answers. Reread confusing parts. Now, some of you are like, no kidding, Mrs. Crestia. However, I also remember being a teenager and hating to reread something I had already read once. As you get older, you tend to do this when you're, on your own independently. Although it takes more time, it's really important to go back and reread confusing parts. And that is whether you're reading a short story, a novel, or an informational text. It doesn't mean you have to reread from page 1 to page 37. It just means that if you're really stuck and you don't understand why Harry Potter can't just, use his powers against Voldemort in the first book and have it be done, then you might reread a few pages back to see that his powers aren't that strong right now. And again, just staying with the Harry Potter theme. So again, not a very exciting one to do, but it is really important. And the last one, again, you can use it sometimes for literature. They will give you pictures. And this is really a great strategy for your content area courses reading material. If there is a picture or a graph or a chart included, please, please, please make sure that you actually look at it and read the captions underneath it. There are reasons why authors include pictures and graphs and charts. This will really help you sometimes clear up the confusing parts that you're reading. And if it's already there for you, you might as well use it. So that is a variety of during reading strategies that we will be using during this school year.